Okay. Uh, okay. I am going to see if I can get Abhay here. And I hope he should be joining us soon. Whether he joins by sending me a request. Abhay, if you're there, can you send me a request, please? Okay, so as I said, my name is Kocher. I'm an author, I'm an art writer, and I write on sustainability. And my moniker, as I said, was Dilli Ki Diva. Now, why Dilli Ki Diva? There was, because I live in Delhi, but there's a certain memory of Delhi, you know, that old time Delhi, which I miss, that idea of that politeness. Abhay, if you're there, can you send me an invitation to join this live, or else I will just accept your invitation and join yours. But hopefully you'll be able to send me an invitation and join this live. Awesome. Just send me an invitation. Now I can see if I can add as moderator. Confirm. And perfect. So you should be a part of this. Yes. Request to join, accept. Okay. Yes.
Yes, we are
It's
there.
taken us a little while. I mean, it's taken us a couple of weeks, but am I there?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can
I
hear me
can
now. Can you see me as well?
I can see you. You can see me?
I can see you perfectly clearly. As you said,
Okay,
today is a
well.
good day. No, now you okay. You're coming and going a little bit, but you're mostly there.
All right.
Okay. So as I was saying, and just let me give a little bit of spiel. So as I was saying, my name is Ritika Kocher. I'm an author. I'm an art writer, and more, I'm becoming a sustainability advocate. And my moniker is Dilli Ki Diva. And the reason that is there is because I have this memory of this old Delhi, this tehzeeb, etc., of a Delhi, which I wish I lived in, and I hope that I live in. But when I met Abhay, who is a poet, he's a child prodigy, he's also works for the government. But the first time we met, we decided to go out and have chai. So we were standing on the side of the road, and Abhay is telling me about the history of Bihar. And that was a fantastic experience. But then every time I open another book of his, it is, I mean, each book is more and more interesting. So whether it's Celestial, whether it's Monsoon, whether it's Meghdoot, the poems are beautiful. The poems he's just written on Nepal, which I was just standing in a bookshop and reading, was amazing. But I have to say my absolute favorite is the Book of Bihari Literature. And the reason it's my absolute favorite is because it's every time I open it, every time I read a new story. Today I'm sitting and reading a couple of stories, and I was actually thinking of my guru, which is B.N. Goswami, and how much he would have loved these stories, and how much he would have sat with his old time charm and sat and read these stories, and they're just beautiful. So, Abhay, thank you so much for being here.
Most welcome, Ritika, and thank you for your generous introduction. I'm not a child prodigy, though. I'm just like any other person who has worked is way hard to to be focused and be interested. That's it.
Okay, so today, through this book, I'm hoping you're going to tell us something about what I think is the most underrated, understated state of India, which is Bihar.
Well, I mean, Bihar, I mean, yeah, in a way you can say, but Bihar has also been at the center of, uh, politics, culture, economy, mm, history, for centuries, actually, for millennia, more than a millennia. Uh, if you look at, the early history of India, ancient history of India, it's actually history of Bihar. So history of, I mean, Bihar is the modern word, but actually history of Magad. So uh, it's uh, uh, it's where you have Buddha and Mahavir, and also, I mean, you have Mahabharat. I mean, happening. I mean, the key to Mahabharat lies in Jarasandh, who is uh, uh, who who is at the core of actually Mahabharat. And how Krishna uses Pandavas to defeat him. And I mean, Krishna has to leave Mathura 18 times and finally settle in Dwarka, because of Jarasandh, who attacks Mathura for 18 times. So I mean, Magad has been at the, I mean, heart of mythology and history of India. And the world's one of the world's first universities also being set up in Nalanda University, and which again ran for almost 700 years before it was finally burnt down and finally declined. And again, a new Nalanda has been set up. So, I mean, Bihar, of course, right now it seems to be a state which is under, uh, not much known about it, or Biharis are not much looked, not very highly looked at. But it's I think the times are changing again, and probably the Book of Bihari Literature is I think for the first time brings out the rich diversity of languages in Bihar and rich literature in them.
Very much so. I mean, as I said, I did not realize until I read your foreword that there are 11 languages that you count as Bihari.
Well, yeah, I mean, I say that there are 11 languages which are either spoken or written in Bihar, in which literature is found in Bihar. So these languages, like, it's fascinating actually. Very few people know that Bihari is not a language actually. Bihari, um, you know, it's when people say, "Do you speak Bihari?" I mean, it's basically no idea of what is spoken in Bihar. So, Bihari actually, in Bihar, we have Bhojpuri, which is acting, and Maithili, which is actually better. I mean, these languages are better known than others. But we also have Maghi, and uh, and we have Angika and Bajjika, and besides, of course, Hindi, Urdu, Sanskrit, Pali, uh, also Farsi, Persian, and English, of course. I mean, Bihar has a number of newspapers in English, actually, published from Patna. So Bihar, that way, I mean, is a place which is as diverse as India, you can say, and a lot of uh, languages are spoken there. Bihari, particularly, what people mean by Bihari is actually Bhojpuri, Maghi, and Maithili,
Okay.
and I think, but I mean, this is not the end of languages. Actually, there are more actually, but these are like major ones. So what I try to do is to find poems and short stories in these languages, and translate many of them. I have translated myself, but also most of the translations have been done by others, and uh, to present these translations together as the Book of Bihari Literature.
Okay, so many questions out of that. First, what do you count yourself as? Because I know another friend who counts himself as Maithili, and he's very proud of being from the land of Sita. And if you said the Mahabharata, then of course the Ramayana also has its place in Bihar. So what do you count
Right.
yourself as?
Well, I'm from. I mean, I, I, I mean, I have this Bihari identity, which is not like Maithili or Bhojpuri or Maghi. I mean, I'm from Nalanda, which is a Magad, area. I mean, Maghi speaking area, but and at the very heart of actually Magad, ancient Magad, and also current Bihar. Rajgir is Rajgrih, Rajgrih, or now which is known as Rajgir actually. Uh, uh, it was the first capital of Magad actually, and before Patliputra became the capital. And I am from Rajgir, but I don't have this very strong Maghi identity or Magadhi identity. I think it's pretty good to go as a Bihari.
Okay, so how far back? I mean, considering you studied all these books, and I'm going to get to the many stories which I've absolutely loved in this. But how far back have you gone in this book? And how far
Well,
back
I
you
mean,
think
these
Bihari history?
the first two poems are actually by two Buddhist nuns, uh, written way back 2,600 years ago, approximately.
मतलब
So,
कौन सा
मतलब
सेंचुरी?
2600 साल पहले,
नहीं नहीं,
मतलब
मतलब second century BC, first century BC, first century
no,
AD.
no, sixth century BC.
अच्छा,
2,600 years means 6th century BC. These poems
that is
are
not
part of.
2,600 years.
Yeah. So how many years? 6th
That's
century BC would
6,000
be.
plus that's 8,000 years.
No, no, no. How 8,000 years? 6th century BC would be 600 years before the common
Okay,
era,
ठीक है,
no?
ठीक
So
है,
600
ठीक है.
years
Okay,
plus 2,000
600
years,
years
that's
है, 2,000
2,600
years.
years.
अच्छा, ठीक है. So what we call as the epic period, the Ramayana Mahabharat wala period.
Epic period, well, epic period could be like anything, because there's no fixed time for epics actually.
True.
Epics, uh, generally people say that epics were written, in this century or that century. I don't think there's a date to them because they're epics. They're
ठीक
not
है,
really, yeah,
ठीक है.
mm,
Okay.
right,
So 6,600 BC. Sorry, I shouldn't have said 6,000. So 600 BC is when we start this book.
right.
And how much did you have to look at to get stories from 600 BC onwards to now?
Well, see, I've edited other anthologies before, so basically, I had found these poems by two nuns, Sumangal Mata and Mutta, um, uh, and I had translated them earlier from Pali, and uh, and then they were I figured out that these were from that area, so they were active in that area. So that's how it begins, and then we also have Chanakya, um, then we have Vatsyayana, we have so many others, like we have um, uh, you know through the century, we have Sarhapa, who is considered the first poet in Hindi language. Actually, Hindi is much younger than Magadhi or Magadhi Prakrit, which is which is considered to be the mother of 6 languages, actually: Bengali, Assamese, uh, Odia, and uh, Bhojpuri, Maithili, and Maghi, what we know today as Maghi.
Wow. But you also included, on one hand, you've included the Chanakya Niti in this book. On one hand, you also included the Kama Sutra in this book.
Correct.
So uh, both of them, Vatsan also, and I mean, Chanakya, yes, I mean the Mauryan Empire was started from this area, but Vatsan also, it was from this area. I wasn't aware of that. I thought Oris. I mean, we presume it's.
Well, I mean, Vatsayana was, he's considered to be based in Patliputra.
Okay.
You see, the thing is that we, in Hindu philosophy, earth, kam, moksha, dharma. I mean, these 4 things, they go together, these 4, where we have dharma, artha, kam, and moksha. These 4 go hand in hand. I mean, there's no like, so there's no as such, that this only the economics artha will happen, through Chanakya, and they're all like, actually, these are arts of living, and these are how this is the way how life is seen, that these are all essential for a wholesome, for a complete life. So only in an advanced economy, if you look at Kama Sutra, if you have read it, only Kama Sutra can only happen in a society which is relatively prosperous and has enough leisure time to think about those things. I mean, to put everything in an art form. Kama Sutra is not about sex. It's a whole philosophy of life. How to conduct oneself in a when people for pleasure, for when people have leisure and have enough time to devote to passions, to desires, to pleasures, longings.
Yeah, the problem with coming from a household like mine is, when I was growing up, there was a copy of the Kama Sutra in my parents' library. So I went, pulled it out, very excited, girls' school and all that. It turned out to be a PhD thesis on the Kama Sutra, which was not that interesting for a 12-year-old at all. So I never actually got to read the Kama Sutra after that, especially.
The problem is that nobody reads it. Everybody thinks that it's just a manual on sex, which it is not.
Yeah, because I've been doing a little bit of studies on this area recently, which is why I got so excited when I was reading the Book of Bihari Literature. And, I was looking at more 10th century dynasties. But again, there's so much which we don't understand. There really isn't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like they're speaking a foreign language. We are not understanding it. We are not understanding the iconography in our own country. We are not understanding what our predecessors were talking about. And I wonder how to go about doing that. And
probably, you need a certain level of prosperity to appreciate what's written there, because see, Kama Sutra is not for everybody. It was meant for a certain class of people. So it's I mean, most of us are not able to appreciate it because there's not enough time, I mean, to appreciate it. I mean, look at the modern lifestyle. I mean, there's not even time to think, to look at, to listen to bird song, or to, have time to go for a walk. People are just rushing from one job to another. Where do you have time for, you know, eh, such a beautiful treatise like Kama Sutra?
Which brings me to the next question. Where did you find the time? I mean,
Well, I mean, I'm a poet, so like, poetry, as Neruda says, poetry is an act of peace, and it only happens when there's a relative peace, and you can you have enough time, and and I do find time for for the things I love.
Yeah, but as I said, each story is very lovingly translated, very
Hmm.
lovingly. Like today, I opened the book. I take out this book when I want to relax. When I want to get
Hmm.
out of Dilli ka wo
Hmm.
pagalpandi. That's
Correct.
when I come to this book. And
Hmm.
which one was I reading today? I was reading the one about the parrot who comes to the house.
The Hindu
Uh,
parrot. Hmm.
the Hindu parrot, yes.
Hmm.
And that was when I was thinking that dude, it's not easy from so many different languages to pull out things that you like from a whole book, like as you said, Chanakya Niti, to pull out just a little passage, decide I will
Hmm.
translate this,
Hmm.
find all these stories in various languages which have never been translated in all these years. I mean,
Hmm.
as I said, I told you this the first time we met also as a Punjabi.
Hmm.
My only by written history, I can only find uh, from independence time. I do not have a history from before that, a written history. I only have it in the
Hmm.
Nanak Sakhis and the Sikh religious history, but
Hmm.
not in written. So where did you find all this?
Well, I mean, I was, I did this whole book while I was in Madagascar, actually, and I've done this all on on phone and on internet, and found I had no idea about Bihari literature, as I've written in the introduction, and it's uh, because Bihari literature wasn't something you could really think of. I mean, particularly in translations, what. So I remembered while I was studying in school, I used to read these beautiful stories and poems. Uh, I mean, but most of them were in Hindi, actually. Not a single one I have read in my own mother tongue, which is Maghi. So I thought that there's nothing in Maghi, actually. I mean, my parents never told me anything. I couldn't find any book in Maghi, actually, and I had this assumption till very recently, like that there's not no written literature in Maghi, actually. So it all, I mean, so I wrote a poem saying that, uh, I mean, there are no books in Maghi. And then when it was published, people were surprised. They thought that uh, you know I have no idea. uh, they told me that you know nothing, basically, because there's very rich written literature in Maghi you have not discovered. So I said, okay, well, please tell me then, what are the books, who are the authors, who are the poets. And they pointed me towards these books and writers and on. So that's how my curiosity arose in finding literature in Maghi, which is my mother tongue. And then slowly I thought that why not to extend it to Bhojpuri and Maithili, because I'm from Bihar, but I have really no idea what's being written in, who are the writers in Bhojpuri. I had no idea, or in Maithili, or in lesser known languages like Angika and Bachika. Even in Urdu, I mean, and these are the writers who are from Bihar, but not only from Bihar, but they also write about Bihar. I mean, most of these stories are about Bihar. They happen there. So so that was what, I mean, that's how this journey began. And I was far away from Bihar actually that time, far away from India. And I edited this whole book from Madagascar, actually calling people, asking them to send me stories, contacting them over phone, and and then finding. I mean, it was so difficult to find translators who could translate from Maghi, for example.
That
I
was my
mean,
next
I
question.
could. Yes, and from Bhojpuri and Maithili, it was difficult. So to find these translators. So like some of the translators, like there are many new translators here, like who have translated for the first time actually. So these were many. There were many challenges to edit this book, to bring out the Book of Bihari Literature, but it's a product of passion. It was like I felt that it's something I must do because others have not done it or not planning to do it.
But has it made an impact? Do you feel that, I,
I think
the people
so.
like,
It's a best-selling book, and my editor at Penguin tells me that they receive a proposal every day saying that they want to do a book like Bihari literature for Marathi or for Odia or something like that.
not
I said,
bad?
good luck. I mean, I think it's become a model. So why not? I mean, they should do one for Kashmiri literature, one for
Oh, yeah.
Assamese literature. It would be fascinating, I think, for us to read the translations, one for Kannada, for Malayalam. Why not?
Again, how do you balance these various parts? I mean, you're from Nalanda. Uh,
Right.
would the Buddha be most important in your life growing up, or since he came, I mean, since that is what we know Nalanda for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or would it be uh, other parts of Bihari history? I mean, what, how do you balance? Sitting in Delhi, for example, for me, Mughal architecture is what I look at all the time because there is
Mm-hmm.
not that much Hindu architecture here.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
been destroyed. 1857, a lot has been destroyed in Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, I mean, so growing up in Nalanda, I mean, of course, like the first thing I encountered in Rajgir was this, Japanese temple while I was a child, and this Japanese temple is actually dedicated to Buddha. And I mean, Vishwa Shanti Stoop is also one of the prominent landmarks in and I mean, we had the extra excitement to take the ropeway to go there. So basically we went for the ropeway actually to have a ride in the ropeway, and then you go on the hill. But I had no idea till very recent times, till, I mean, 10 years or 10 years ago, that actually that Vishwa Shanti Stupa is not the main place. Actually, there is another place nearby called the Vulture's Peak or the Gridkut Parbat, which is the main place where Buddha uh, is. It is said that Buddha gave Heart Sutra there, and Heart Sutra is a very important sutra in Buddhism. And I had no idea about this sutra until Penguin Random House asked me to write a book on Nalanda, actually, after the Book of Bihari Literature. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, how to write a book on Nalanda. So I started researching, and I found that Buddha gave Heart Sutra in at Rajgir, where I am from, and I had no idea about that. And what is Heart Sutra? And this is Heart Sutra. Let me tell you, it's so important that every Buddhist on the planet knows this sutra. And it's a brief one. It's just one page, few lines, and but I had no idea. So obviously I was not growing up. I mean, my family was obviously not. I mean, my family has been a vegetarian always. But from where did it come? I had no idea. Whether it came from Buddhism or Jainism, or because Mahavir is also from. He's also. I mean, Rajgir is another. It's a very important place for Jains also, because one of the Tirthankars of Jainism is actually born at Rajgir. And Mahavir himself, the last Tirthankar, I mean, he himself is actually, his samadhi is not far away. You are showing, in your slide, I see Pavapuri, which is where he rests, he attained his Mahaparinirvana. So, so I don't know if the influence is from Buddhism or Jainism, or different Shaivism or Vaishnavism, something like that. But my family has always been a vegetarian, and I had, I mean, at home there used to be like these little statues, granite statues of Buddha and Mahavira, and I mean, we also had posters of Christ and everyone. So it's like we always, I mean, and Shiva and all the gods and goddesses. So it's for us, it was like they were all equal. I mean, I I had no really. I mean, there was not. I mean, one of the greatest things about Hinduism is that it accepts all. I mean, it uh, anybody can be part of it. It's open, so it's not closed. So that's what I really like about it, and that's how I grew up. But Buddhism, I mean, Bodh Gaya was very close. My mother is actually from a place which is not very far from there, and Rajgir itself is a very historic place, also as I told you earlier, also associated with Mahabharata, Krishna and Jarasandha.
Okay, so Jarasandha comes from Rajgir side.
Right, not side, from Rajgir. He was the king of Magadh.
Okay. Yes, trying to place things in various perspectives, and so many
Right.
perspectives. I mean, there's so many layers. I mean,
True.
for example, uh, the the lady who just went past just now, the
Hmm.
forgotten her name, who's in.
She's from she's Patliputra's the what do you call mm, one who,
Yes,
yeah,
I. Yeah, you also know it. I also know it. Both our tongues. She's been
correct,
the symbol of Indian history for so many years, and
right.
but you were also telling me about the history of how uh, the rulers from this side also went into Sri Lanka, etc., and took various waves of say
Mm-hmm.
Buddhism into Sri Lanka, etc., and down to the
Mm-hmm.
southeast also. And we never talk about that side of Bihari history as well, right? I mean, the Mauryans, the Ashoka being from there, the Ashoka was from there,
Mm-hmm.
right? The Guptas, etc.
Right, right. Yes. So yes, I mean, you're referring to Ashoka's son Mahinda and his daughter Sanghamitra. So yes, they were born they were born to Devi, who was from Sanchi, actually, where Stupa, the great Stupa in Sanchi, is built. I mean, she was a consort of Ashok, and Mahinda and Sanghamitra were their children, and of course, they went to Sri Lanka and took Buddhism there, introduced Buddhism to Sri Lanka. So, um, so we have historical links, and in Patna there's a ghat on the Ganga River, which is known as Mahendru Ghat, which is named after actually Ashoka's son Mahendra.
So the Dargan Yakshi, that was the name of the beautiful lady who
Yeah,
went past
yeah,
us.
the Didarganj, actually, right.
The story is amazing. Achha, to return to your book, what's your favorite story in the book? And can you read out a little bit if you have it with you?
Well, I mean, I have many favorites here. I mean, it's not one. Uh,
So do I. I
I
can't
mean,
choose.
I think there's so many. like A Twist in Fate, or uh, The Dressing Table, which is actually the cover page, uh, and it's the Dressing Table is by Samuel Ahmed, and it begins with these lines. This line: even the prostitutes had been targeted during the riots. Brij Mohan had managed to lay hands on Nasim Zan's dressing table. It had a full-length mirror encased in an ivory frame. His three daughters took turns to look at themselves in the mirror from different angles, even though it was cloudy, and the hair oil, nail polish, and lipstick stains on the frame gave it a run-down look. Brij Mohan was a little uneasy noticing this change in his daughters. They had stood on the balcony in the past, too, but not quite in the same way. Now even Choti, the youngest one, plastered her face with talcum powder and lipstick and giggled and laughed as she stood on the balcony. That day, too, the three of them were out on the balcony. Standing across the road, Brij Mohan watched their antics. Suddenly, Buddy stretched out her arms provocatively, displaying the contour of her breasts. Manjli, the middle one, bent over to look down and then scratched her back. A young man standing near the cigarette stall smiled and looked up at the balcony. Choti nudged Manjli, and the three of them broke into laughter. Brij Mohan's heart began to sink. His premonitions were coming true. He had had his fear since the day he had robbed Nasim Zan of her dressing table. There had been a variable pandemonium when the rioters had entered the prostitutes' quota. Brij Mohan and his companions had barged into Nasim Zan's quarters and grabbed whatever they could. As Brij Mohan had picked up the dressing table, Nasim Zan had screamed and shouted. She had fallen at his feet. Brother, this is an heirloom. Please don't take it. Let it be, brother. Get lost, you whore. Brij Mohan had yelled and given her a mighty shove with his leg. As she fell, her sari rose up to her hips, but she quickly pulled it down and grabbed Brij Mohan's legs again. Brij Mohan had extricated his feet with violent force. Move aside, you whore. Brother, this is a memento from my grandmother. Brother, leave it. I think we'll leave it here.
It's wow, what a story. And this is in a translation. I can just imagine what the original must have been like.
Yeah, originally is even grander.
But I mean, to find these stories, to translate them, I mean, it takes a lot.
True. I mean, it took like 2 years to edit this book.
But it also takes a lot out of you. I mean, the story is, many of the stories you've chosen, as I said, today for me it was the Hindu parrot. Now this one is even more. I used to think that my Toba Tek Singh was too much for me to handle, and these are very, these are hard-hitting stories.
Yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of this book. I mean, once you read it, you are not the same person.
Literally. It's,
Yeah.
and somebody said, amazing, thanks for the wonderful live, especially the reading. Thank you so much for that. That's really been precious.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Abhay. It's so kind of you to have, after all the trouble joining in. I mean, we really had a lot of trouble, but I'm so glad we could do this. And as I said, this book's been very special to me. It's really calmed me down in a lot of ways.
Thank you. And I think there are many more stories. I think one of the other story I really like is this Bajika story called The Invisible Bond.
Okay.
And I think that's really a very good story. And even more, I mean, there's a story, Maghi's story called, it's a Mm, it's called the it's Chilled to the Bone by Maithili. It's, I think, a very special story. I think one of the most remarkable stories in this book.
Okay.
Mm, yeah. So some of these stories. There's one story about a mother and a daughter, which is amazing, by Kavita. It's probably the last story of this book. Where a mother wants to get married, when she's in her like 70s, and none of her sons support that, except her daughter, who she's the only one to support her.
Thank you. And now I know, one of these days I'm just going to do readings. So
Hmm.
I will invite you to join me for that as well. We'll just read all
Sure,
these
sure.
beautiful
Absolutely.
stories some Sunday. Thanks
Yeah.
so much, Abhay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ritika. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for the invitation
All
and
the
the opportunity to share my thoughts with you and your audience.
Thanks, Abhay. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Thank you.